I grew very tired of having to explain when a stranger asks someone my age, do you have any kids? And so in the beginning I would say, yes, I have a son, but he's not with us anymore. But that is such a more awkward conversation than just saying, no, I don't have kids. So then I moved into answering that question with, no, I don't. Which still to me feels wrong for me to say that because I do have a child. I am a mom. I just didn't get to keep him.
Well, we want to get right back to that breaking news we're following in Cobb County.
Yeah, that's where police confirm the child has died after being left in a hot car at Acres Mill Square.
Oh, just a heartbreaking story here in Cobb County. You can see
When
a number of Cobb police officers.
my wife and I saw it on the news the next morning, and the spot where he parked is right outside of a restaurant that my wife and I go to regularly. And so that morning we're getting ready for work, and we both literally just froze in front of the TV hearing the story.
Ross and I met at University of Alabama. One evening, there was an open mic night. I would say that there was definitely an initial attraction. There was some flirting and talking. Ross has a very unique personality. He will talk to anyone. If you're in line at the grocery store, in line at the movies, I can remember when we first started dating, it would be nothing for me to meet maybe 5 new people. Ross proposed to me on New Year's Eve. We went to Nashville for a bowl game. The University of Alabama was playing in the Music City Bowl, and we went to dinner that night. And he took me to a place where you could see a lot of the city skyline. And it was evening, and so all the buildings were lit up. And he proposed to me there. He did get down on one knee when he proposed. And of course, he said some things, and I can't remember what those things are now. We got married about 1.5 years after he proposed to me. On May 27th, 2006, outside. I would say we had a good marriage. We partnered very well. We didn't fight. He always told me how beautiful he thought I was. He always told me how much he loved me and how lucky he was to be with me.
Ross and Leanne were married for about 10 years, and they wanted a baby so bad. And they worked hard to get that baby.
Cooper was very much a planned pregnancy. I was taking my temperature. I was using ovulation strips to, figure out the best time to conceive. I will never forget the day we found out we were pregnant with Cooper. It was actually Ross's birthday. I got up really early and went into the bathroom to take the test, and I just left it sitting on the bathroom sink. He called to me. He said, well, I think you need to come look at it because it says that you're pregnant. We just kind of sat there in shock, just saying, we're going to be parents. You can actually get pregnant. It's possible. And we were just really excited.
And when they finally got pregnant, she gave it to me in a book that she made for my 60th birthday. And that's how they told me she was pregnant.
Do it one more time. Hold on. All right, go.
I think that Cooper's personality was definitely going in the direction of his father's personality. He took to almost anybody.
And he was so sweet and he laughed all the time. He was such a good baby. He hardly ever cried.
He started pulling up really early. He started crawling pretty early. He was just ready to go.
Cooper, say buh. Say nana. Say banana. No, banana. You want it? Okay.
Ross, as a dad, he was very involved. After Cooper was born, I was more focused on him and taking care of him. I was tired, and my sex drive wasn't what it used to be. We did not have sex for nine entire months.
Leanna told me that she and Ross were having physical problems, that Ross did not want to have sex. And I said, well, I don't know why. And she said, I don't know why either.
I came home from work one day and he was visibly upset, and he said, I really need to talk to you about something. And I said, okay. And he told me, he said, I have a problem with pornography and I want to get help for it. And part of the process is me confessing that to you. He had started falling into a pornography addiction.
His best friend, Billy, he's a PhD in psychology. He said that Ross had a true addiction, which is responsible for his behavior. Billy told Ross, he said, I'll set you up to monitor your computer. And Billy knew when Ross was doing that stuff. His best friend, Billy, and his brother, Mike, they sat down and talked to Ross and told him, said, you better stop. You're going to lose everything you have.
But overall, we did have a happy home. It was a home that I was ready to get back to every night. We were a team, and Cooper was the center of that team. When Cooper was born and Ross started taking a very proactive role in everything from diaper changes to bath time to, meals and foods and feeding and, getting up and getting him a bottle or, rocking him back to sleep. He didn't push any parenting responsibilities onto me. I never felt like Cooper wouldn't be safe with his dad.
I'm County 911. Where is your emergency?
Yeah, can you send an ambulance? The guy pulled in the parking lot and the baby's not breathing, it doesn't look like.
What is my son? My boy. My boy.
Where is it at? What? Hold on. We need to get them. I know. Listen, I need my. Shut the fuck up. Hold on. My son died. All right. I'll fucking tell you what. Fucking me. I'm really upset. I understand. But right now, you're not helping our situation.
Oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? Oh my God. A boy.
People need to be called. Look, I understand. Who do you need to call? called a little late for Academy at Home Depot. My wife is going to pick him up there where he's not going to be. So we need to call them as soon as possible. She's going to get there and he's not going to be there.
Why did you think he's there?
Because I was supposed to drop him off this morning and I didn't do a second look in my car and left him in my car while I was at work.
When I got to the daycare, I was looking for Cooper because I like to see him when he would see me and notice that I was there because he would always get excited and come running for a hug. And so I walked into the room and the daycare teacher that was there looked at me and she said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm here to get Cooper." And she said, "Well, Cooper's not here." And I just immediately started to panic on the inside. All these thoughts ran through my head. How is that not possible? How could he not be here? I said, "Well, I don't understand. They're saying he was never checked in today." I drive over to the office that Ross worked at. There was a guy that decided to come with me from the daycare because I was so upset. Just knew that my son wasn't at daycare and I couldn't get in touch with my husband. My phone, the battery was going out on me, so I had it in my car charging. The phone rings, and it's a unknown number, and I answer it. There was a detective on the other end. He asked me where I was, and I told him. He said, "Well, we need you to stay there. We're going to come to you." And I asked him, I said, "Well, are you not going to tell me what's going on?" And he said, "We'll tell you when we get there." "It's bad, isn't it?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am. It's bad."
Your child is deceased. I'm very sorry to have to tell you that.
I asked him, "Where is my husband?" Because I thought that he was gone too. I really believed that I was asleep and that I was dreaming and that I would wake up. But I never woke up.
I'm so sorry.
Before we begin, I gotta ask you some, just some basic questions, okay? Are you under the influence of any intoxicants right now?
I'm not.
Alcohol?
No.
Prescription medication?
I just don't believe this is real. It just feels like I'm floating in a nightmare.
Do you want to talk to him?
I do. I'm just scared. And I don't know how to react. Baby, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. I love you. I love you.
You know I didn't mean to.
I know you didn't, baby. I know you didn't. I know that.
You know I didn't mean to.
I know you didn't. I know.
You know I didn't.
I know you didn't, baby. I don't know. I know you didn't. I know you didn't. I know you didn't. Honey, I know. I know. Baby, you didn't do that. It's gonna be okay. Yes, it is. We're gonna get through this.
The first time that we got to see each other, and ultimately the only time, that we got to see each other following Cooper's death was in the interview room at the police station. And he was absolutely devastated.
So anybody take your phone? That's fine. Okay. Go ahead and if you can get some phone numbers off for him.
Wait, what?
Phone numbers for him? For me to call. People to call.
Wait, what am I getting the phone numbers for? I'm sorry.
For him. For he's going to jail.
Ross was taken immediately to jail, so we never had any opportunity to heal together. One of Cooper's daycare teachers that was there waiting on me took me back home. I didn't want to go in because I felt like if I went in and Cooper wasn't there, then that would solidify that this was actually happening. The girl that was with me talked me into going inside. I went back to Cooper's room and I got in his bed and I just cried. It was the first time that I was really able to feel the loss. It's impossible to hear my mom's voice and not remember her screaming that I told her that Cooper was gone. And that's hard.
I've often said up in Cobb that I believe the Cobb PD is one of the finest police departments in the state of Georgia and the southeastern United States, and it's an honor for us to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. But I will tell you literally from the very second, the very minute those detectives were there, they indicated to us that there was something not right about this case.
There was a woman in Utah named April Sewin that this had happened to. I feel like such a jerk now because I remember the time before I had kids, you think you're the best parent until you become one. And I remember judging her harshly and saying, I don't understand how you forget that your baby is in the car. And I'm very lucky because she reached out to me after this happened and she still checks on me once a week.
There may be no issue of human failure that more challenges our notions about crime and punishment and mercy. And what it amounts to in cases like this is almost always the same. A parent has forgotten that a child was in the car. Usually they forget to bring the child to daycare. Fatal distraction was clearly the hardest story that I ever had to report in the Washington Post. We submitted it for Pulitzer Prize in the feature category, and it won. My editor called me one day and said that another baby had died. There was no sound on the phone for a few seconds. I had never talked to him about this, but it was the summer of 1983. I was working at the Miami Herald. I was an editor at the Herald. My baby daughter, Molly, was 2 years old. On this day, I was supposed to turn right at the Miami Herald building, drive a couple more miles, and drop Molly off at her daycare center. I don't remember to this day why I forgot she was in the car, but I forgot she was in the car. I turned left as I ordinarily did. I went into the Herald parking lot and was looking for a place to park when something amazing happened. She said something. It was July, 95-degree heat. I understood right there what almost had happened had she been asleep. And she would not have lasted 15 minutes in that heat. And I remember being overcome by a physical wave of nausea.
Madam Chairwoman, KidsInCars.org appreciates the opportunity to express our views on the Hot Cars Act and other available technologies that will save the lives of children. Many years ago, the children would be in the front seat, and they weren't being left behind because they were right there and the driver was cognizant that they were in the car with them. But we started adding airbags. So immediately, everyone said, whoa, we can't let the kids be up front anymore. We need for them to travel in the back seat, where they are safer. But at the same time, you made a very significant change in the way we transport our children. Now you add to the fact that they're in the back seat already. Now we put them in rear-facing car seats in a position where you can't even tell if there's a baby in that seat or not. 87% of the children that die in hot cars are age 3 or younger. And why is that? Well, they're in the back seat, they're rear-facing. And think about the parents. Any parent will tell you the first year or 2 of life, they don't get any sleep. Your brain, your memory, doesn't function like it should.
Breaking right now, a 2-year-old dies after being found unresponsive in a hot car.
Yesterday, children in Texas and Connecticut died from overheating in vehicles.
A 9-month-old baby girl trapped inside this truck for hours. Just one day earlier in Indiana, 3-year-old Hannah Grace Miller died after she spent 2 hours in a closed car. Also an accident.
I would never leave my child in the car. I don't see how parents can forget that.
There's not a moment that goes by when I'm not like, where is she? What's she doing? What's going on with her? And so for someone to say that that was an accident, I couldn't believe it.
I've always wanted to have a child. I couldn't imagine forgetting him.
I don't care how busy you are or how little sleep you get, how stressed you are.
No way I would ever forget where my kid is at.
How can somebody do it?
Developing this noon, police have charged a father with murder after his toddler died in a hot car.
Right now, the Cobb County father is in jail for the death of his 22-month-old son.
That morning, Harris took his son with him for breakfast at this Chick-fil-A near Cumberland Mall. And from there, he was supposed to drop Cooper at daycare, but that never happened.
9:19 a.m. Surveillance video shows Justin strapping in and kissing Cooper. The father and son then leave Chick-fil-A. They drive 0.6 miles to Justin's work, passing the turn to Cooper's daycare. At 9:25 a.m., 6 minutes later, Justin gets to work.
So I have personally looked at just dozens of these cases. I have talked to these parents. There is always something different about the day in which the parent forgets the child.
You broke your routine is what happened. You normally take your daughter and you normally take Tyler. So you broke the routine.
Yes.
So you were sort of like moving unconsciously, like a lot of people do, through rote. You ever do that? You get home sometimes and you don't even know how you got there. You don't remember the stop signs or the whatever.
The vast majority of times in which Ross would leave that Chick-fil-A, he was going straight to work. So they don't typically have the child when they're leaving from having breakfast to go to work. So you can see there's something different about that morning. So Ross Harris, as he was actually fighting traffic to make a U-turn from the Chick-fil-A to go to work, in that process of the stress of fighting traffic, right at that moment, the autopilot kicked in and he went straight to work instead of making a left turn to be able to go to daycare. The two were very close to each other. So he lost awareness that on this drive, that his child was in the back seat.
You know, immediately after Ross was arrested, there was sympathy for him in the community. I think the consensus was that this was just a terrible accident. And of course, little did I know that hours later, Ross's family was going to be sitting here in this very office, just devastated. It's different when you see it live and in person, and how these kinds of deaths, the death of a child, affects the family. It's incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult.
I live and work in Cobb County. I knew a lot of the players, a lot of the police involved, the prosecutors that were on the news. So I paid a lot of attention to it. So when this case first hit the news in the local area, most people thought that it was an accident, and there was a lot of support and an outpouring of support for the parents.
Before this tragedy, I had never heard anyone say a bad thing about him. He was just an overall great guy.
The Ross that I knew he really was the one person you could point to that really got along with everybody. He had no enemies that I knew of. This has got to be an accident.
And then there started to be information that was leaked out through the police department that really changed the entire paradigm and changed the public perception.
One of the things that the police didn't understand about me was that I told them that this was a fear of mine, that it was a fear that either myself or Ross would forget Cooper in the car. And they thought that that was strange.
It's always been a big fear of mine. Always.
Has anything happened though that might have sparked you guys?
No, it's just always been one of my biggest fears.
Five days before this little child died, Justin Ross Harris watched a YouTube video where a vet demonstrates how torturous it is to be left in a hot car, and he watched it twice.
Justin Ross Harris didn't search for this. It just appeared in one of his Reddit histories. And that was not abnormal or surprising at that time in Georgia, because the governor's office had done a huge public interest campaign to try and make people aware of hot car deaths.
A father charged with the unthinkable. His young son left in a hot car, and authorities say this was no accident.
There is something sticky here. I can't quite put my fingers on it.
And what I know about this case shocks my conscience.
We hold three things sacred here in the South: football, religion, and family. And this guy was the paragon of that. I mean, this is someone I don't know.
People have a need to demonize the person to whom it actually happens so that they can feel in their minds, this could not happen to me. This could only happen to a monster.
The conversation in social media went from, oh my gosh, I can't believe they put this guy in jail, to burn him at the stake immediately. And while you're at it, throw the wife in too, because she's just as guilty as him. They were never able to show that Ross researched children dying in hot cars. It was a completely false statement. But that was a very powerful statement in the press. This happened to this couple, and they were researching children dying in hot cars. The automatic thought process for that is they did this on purpose.
Do you think police are working with her or perhaps on her to tighten the case around her husband?
Oh, I'm sure that they are, Matt.
I was not speaking to the press. No one in our family was speaking to the press. No one who knew us that knew the details of what was going on was talking to the press. So the only place that the press could have been getting this information was from the police department. And I think that that's when the mistrust of the police department started for me.
Ross, I've spent so much time thinking about you. You and I have shared the most horrific tragedy together. We left our sons in the car.
So, Mr. Harrison, again, very grateful for you to be here. I know this is difficult. We all do. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
My world changed forever that day. You know, if ever a child had attention and love, it was this one. When he would see me he would run to me, and he would run, bash right into me, and I'd pick him up and hold him, and he'd go, Dad, Dad, Dad. When I went to my office, I was focused on all the work problems that people typically focus on. It was a pretty tense time with that. And I didn't get off at exit 5. A colleague came up to me in my office around 5 o'clock. Hey, do you have a doll in your car? Stunned, I had no idea why he would ask such a question. And I couldn't imagine what he was talking about. I stood up and started to go through what I had done that day, and then realized, oh my God, no. I rushed to the car and came across the side window, and I saw Chase. I had not dropped him off at daycare. I ripped open the car door, I pulled him from the car seat, unaware of anyone around, and ran into the office with him in my arms, screaming, crying, calling out for help. Without any compassion, the police demanded that I be brought to the station immediately and interviewed. They started asking me questions about did I have life insurance on my son. It started to hit me then. I had killed my son. I did it. My poor sweet boy. God, take me now. And return my son to his beautiful mother. Please, God, not him, me. I had to be hospitalized for several weeks and even register under a fake name because I would have been arrested the moment I left the hospital. Tragically, I was not even allowed to attend the funeral of my son. My story continues with a very public trial, fighting a charge of involuntary manslaughter, which, thank God, I was found not guilty. Children are dying unnecessarily. Families are being destroyed. In my son's honor, we've made it a mission to try to help Congress implement some sort of a car warning system. Please, I implore you to enact this legislation. I know my time's running up, so I'm going to stop, but I want to thank you all for hearing my testimony. And please help us.
So what we desperately need is to have technology to be able to remind us that our child is in the backseat of the car. We need to take it out of the realm in which we have the flaws of human brain processing. And just like leaving our lights on, our headlights, our seatbelts, we need a reminder from our car.
So many people around the country had their eyes glued to the televisions here on CNN.
Very shortly, there is going to be a courtroom showdown between law enforcement and the father of a 22-month-old little boy, Cooper.
What was it like there in the courtroom?
It was packed. I mean, a lot of those people were supporters of the Harrises. We know that their church is just across the street. When we walked in, there were people saving seats, climbing over some of the benches, trying to get everybody packed in. We saw that I was standing room only. Expected to go 90 minutes. It lasted just over 3 hours, and no one moved.
He started off trying to work himself up, and we're watching him on the camera as he's doing this, and he's walking around and he's rubbing his eyes, and he's, it looked like he's trying to hyperventilate himself. No tears, no, real emotion coming out of him except for, the huffing.
And through the time you're talking with him about his son and his son's death,
Did you ever see any tears coming from him?
No.
How would you expect someone in that situation to act?
I think it's fair to say that there's a spectrum of reactions. You can't say one person is going to react a certain way.
And Ross Harris's behavior was out of that spectrum?
It was absolutely outside the norm. And did he give you another example of how he was aware of the dangers of leaving a living thing in a car?
He told me that he had watched another video. The veterinarian decides to do a demonstration about the dangers of leaving your animal in the car.
How many times did he view it?
He viewed it twice.
And that was why the decision was made to get a second warrant for second degree.
That is correct.
We learned today that Justin Ross Harris was seen going back to his vehicle, reaching in, placing something in, while police say that boy was sweltering in the back of the car, likely already dead.
He comes up, he opens up the door, and as he's reaching in, he kind of turns his head a little bit. He's in there, he has a clear view, and he kind of turns his head and then just tosses the light bulbs into the car.
So Ross Harris bought a bunch of light bulbs, and on his lunch break, he went to his car and threw them in the car. There was a lot of testimony at trial that his head would not have gone low enough to see the car seat or to see the child.
Which is one of these claims that was one of the most horrible claims. It's this idea that he goes back to the car at lunchtime, a sort of staged effort to make sure the child may be dead or something. It turns out he claims he needed light bulbs. They went to his house to determine whether he had light bulbs that were out. Guess what? He did. And when you look at the video, it backs up his story.
Did I just hear you say he went in his car? He went in his car, and Dan, isn't it true that when he went in his car, his child was dying or dead in the car seat in the car?
Correct. He didn't go in his car.
How can you
he threw something in his car.
Forget the light bulbs. I don't care. He had to open the door
you need to care.
and put something
you need
in
to
the
care.
car.
Probable cause hearing is the one opportunity that the public has to hear about what's happening and hear about the evidence. And for them to come forward and put forth this false image and this false evidence so early in the case, the defense doesn't have the chance to undo that.
The wife of this defendant, the mother of this dead child, and we can show her again. Was she chewing gum during all of this?
She was chewing gum, Jane, during all of this.
Probable cause hearing, they were so focused on me in the courtroom and so critical of everything I did or didn't do. And I was portrayed as a very unintelligent. I was from Alabama, so automatically people are going to assume that you're an uneducated redneck. And it's just a very weird experience to watch people create an image for you that's not even accurate.
She had very few reactions during the entire hearing. She went between looking down or looking forward and just a blank stare gaze.
It was literally 3 days after I'd buried my son. I was still in shock. I was medicated. I was out of my mind.
I think he's protecting his wife. I think it's the wife that's behind this.
Leanna Harris has not been charged with a crime, and her husband has pleaded not guilty. But her actions and her words since Cooper died last month have gotten the attention of the public and investigators.
The detectives found my initial interview to be suspicious. They've used the term that I showed zero emotion. I didn't cry. Therefore, I was suspicious. I honestly did not know if they were going to come and arrest me or not. And so I decided to have Cooper's footprint actually tattooed on my foot. That way he's with me no matter what. He's there with me, he's walking with me, and I always have a piece of him with me. You know, they can make me take my jewelry off, but they couldn't make me take a tattoo off.
Newsroom, while we're watching and transcribing, there was like, oh, gasps. Tell us about the courtroom's reaction when Harris's alleged sexting while his son is dying was revealed.
Felt very betrayed. I can specifically remember I picked up his phone and he was requesting a nude photo from someone. And I got very upset, shut myself in the bathroom, started crying, telling him to leave. It was very, very hurtful because it was no longer just watching, videos on a screen. It was actually interacting with another woman and requesting photographs. That was the time that we actually made the decision to meet with the pastor. We had a few meetings with him about the pornography addiction. This was something that had plagued us for the majority of our marriage, but that was kind of the start of our counseling journey. And we started seeing a sex therapist, and I wanted to try to get to the root of the problem.
While his son Cooper sat strapped in a car seat in blistering heat, prosecutors say Justin Ross Harris sent sexual messages to a girl just 16 years old.
He was having up to 6 different conversations with different women. The most common term would be sexting.
He's sexting 6 women approximately in his office while his 22-month-old son is in the hot car dying a torturous death.
So jurors will have to believe that not only did this man want his son dead, but that he had to have realized that all of these texts and sex would come into play.
Right. He worked at Home Depot in their IT department. So, it's a good defense argument to say he would have known that if he murdered his son, he was going to be the prime suspect and they were going to go and look at his computer.
It is easy to listen to this very damaging evidence and say, let's close the book. He's guilty. It's over with. This was not a trial. This was simply a probable cause hearing. But their point was to try to get the judge to deny bond, and that worked. I think it's laying the groundwork for the possibility that the district attorney could pursue a death penalty charge.
If you don't want anybody to see a child in the car, why do you park in a place where everybody's going to be walking by? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Not only does nobody park back here, but the folks that are walking, they're not walking over there. They're doing laps around this area here.
Maddox had to sit me down in an office and explain to me how unfaithful my husband had been to me. Certain trysts, in cars, there could have potentially been a prostitute involved. I went so long wanting to believe that there were no physical affairs. Everything for me changed when I found out how far Ross had gone in his infidelity. I think it was maybe 4 months later that I decided to file for divorce. It just took me a while because everything in my life changed for me so fast. I woke up one morning and I was a mom and I was a wife. And when I went to bed that night, I wasn't. My life changed so fast that when new information kept getting thrown at me, and it did for so long, it did. It took me time to process it.
Miles, it is with my sincerest apologies that I have not written you sooner. I have fought long and hard about what to write. In fact, I've probably written this letter 3 or 4 times. Miles, every day I feel the same shame and guilt that you do. Not a day goes by that I don't think about that horror that occurred June 18, 2014. Please know that you aren't alone, and that I might actually think about you often. In fact, I would be honored if you're still willing to correspond with me. I can't forgive myself.
But baby, it was an accident. It was an accident.
You know, I hate to say that, but that feels like the easy way out. I know it was unintentional, but I did it. And the pain I caused Carol, that poor little boy, my son, I will never forgive myself, ever.
Nearly 1 in 4 parents of a child under 3 has forgotten the child in a car. That's 25%. I've done it. I admitted that yesterday.
I've done it.
You've done it. Wow.
I mean, I'm telling you,
11%
I
of
can't tell
parents
you the
admit to
number
it.
of people who watched the show last night who called me afterwards and said, I've done the exact same thing. And you panic. You absolutely panic when it happens.
Are there steps? I mean, Sunny had an idea of, she puts her shoes in the back and therefore she's always checking in the back.
You know, Anderson, the car goes off if you leave the door open. The car goes off if you don't put on your seatbelt, if you don't turn on your lights. There's so many instances when we drive that alarms go off. How come these cars, when they stop, if a kid is in a weighted car seat, there can't be an alarm that goes off to tell the parent that there's a kid in the back of this car?
Jeanette Fennel.
Hey, Jeanette, it's Amber.
Oh, hi, Amber. What's up?
Another baby died in a hot car yesterday. One of the parents forgot to drop the baby off at daycare.
Oh, no.
I have been referred to as a helicopter mom. So yes, I was very overprotective. Locks on the cabinets. She slept in a bassinet next to the bed with me. I would wake up all night just to check on her. We had the video monitors. I even had a little sign that I put on her car seat telling people don't touch the baby because I was very worried about germs. So on the morning of June 21st, when everything happened, it just was kind of one of those days where nothing went right. Remy had been up for probably about an hour and a half that night. She was getting over a very bad urinary tract infection, so she had been home with Pete the week before. Remy was really tired. I had a lot going through my mind that day. I had some really, really difficult patients and cases that I was going to see, and when you're driving, it's just one simple turn to get to the daycare, one to get to work. And I guess in my mind, I just did autopilot.
So we understand this phenomenon at a neurobiological level. We have habits, and these are things we can do automatically, and they make our lives a lot easier. So if you think about the very first time that you learned how to drive a car, that first moment you turned the ignition, you had to work at it. You had to think about it. Where's the gas? Where are the brakes? We're using our conscious part of the brain to do this kind of activity. And this is a part of the brain that involves what's called the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. These two parts of the brain work together to allow us to consciously make plans and to remember information. But now you've started a car thousands of times, and we've driven to work thousands of times. You don't have to think about it anymore. We go on autopilot. That uses a different brain structure. It's called the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia takes us directly from home to work automatically. So it's that part of the brain that actually suppresses our awareness of new information. In the times in which parents lose awareness of the child in the car, it means that the basal ganglia autopilot has won out and you're doing something more out of habit than what you have conscious memory for. And that is the child is in the back seat.
And I remember passing one of the girls that I worked with on the way out and saying, yeah, I'm going to go home and, go get Remy. And went to go get in the car, and I went and sat in the car and went to sit in and looked in my rearview mirror and saw her little face. And I just kind of sat there and said, what? And I thought I was seeing things. And it hit me at that time that I'd never taken her to daycare, and I thought I had. So I grabbed her out of her car seat, and I ran across the parking lot to the urgent care, and we fell. I tripped going down, and we fell so hard, and she flew out of my arms and hit her head on the ground. And I just said, oh my gosh, she didn't even blink. She didn't even move.
When I got to the jail, I saw a woman who was out of control. She sat before me and literally was pulling her hair out in clumps. She was screaming, I just want to die, literally screaming at the top of her lungs. It was the most difficult and uncomfortable moment I've ever spent visiting someone in custody. It was horrific.
So, in my mind, Remy was at daycare. I dropped her off. I talked about her all day. I was sitting there, shopping for her on Amazon all day long. And talking about her all day long. I was thinking about her all day long.
So there is a twist to this phenomenon, and that is that the parents not only lose awareness of the child in the car, but somehow the brain fills in that gap. And so they'll go to work and spend the entire 8 hours going to work. Not only are they at work, they're talking about their child. They're looking at pictures of their child, and they've said to people, I need to leave work on time to go pick up my child at daycare. So this is an entirely different phenomenon, which is really called a false memory. So when we think we've done something, we actually create a memory, and that memory fills the void of something we actually didn't do.
Within 48 hours of Nikki's arrest, her sister and sister-in-law, both lawyers themselves, had narrowed in on Dr. David Diamond from South Florida and his pioneering work in lapsed memory. It transformed from being, I think, a hopeless case to being a case that I believed was a pure accident.
Different governments having essentially the same fact patterns and the same basic laws about it. About half of them choose to regard this as a crime and they prosecute it robustly. And about the other half see it, recognize it as a terrible accident, and they don't prosecute it at all.
This was the moment last May that haunts Joshua Blunt. Outside the restaurant where he works, the 25-year-old discovered his daughter Shania had been trapped inside this hot car for 4 hours. The same day, Blunt was arrested for second-degree murder, a charge later reduced to manslaughter. A week earlier, 90 miles away, a 2-year-old named Caroline Bryant died after spending 8 hours inside a hot car. But her 37-year-old white mother was not charged.
Felt like every part of me just was torn into pieces. Tell me this is not real.
I think that our situation was unique in the fact that it involved so much scandal. And I think that that's ultimately why the media became so enthralled by it, because what sells in our country is sex. And that was at the central focus of our story. And so I got the feeling early on that the community of families that this had happened to would not want to be associated with me because I was associated with so much scandal and salaciousness.
I know what we're trying to do is to prevent this from happening to other people. And if going through this pain helps save one more child, then it's worth it.
I'm always nervous to meet somebody who knows the kind of pain that I've experienced, because it feels like it could overwhelm everything.
Tire pressure. They know we're human and we're fallible. So,
When you meet somebody who has gone through something that you have gone through, the compassion is overwhelming and the sympathy is overwhelming, because they know what it's like to think, well, what if I had just changed the way that I did my routine that day? What if I could have changed it? They know what it's like to live with that kind of regret. It's a hard thing to live with.
We have tried to get families together for a long time for something like this so that we could, have some kind of connection and healing that's not via email or not via phone call. After you lose a child, it's one of the most difficult things that you can imagine. And, you have two choices that you can take. And one of them is you can roll up in a ball and try to let the world pass you by, or you can choose to do something about it.
People probably look at me on the outside right now and say that she seems fine, she seems okay. But on the inside, I'm screaming, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and I don't want to do this anymore, and I don't want to feel this anymore. And that is truly the way I feel on the inside, but that does not necessarily convey itself on the outside. So I don't think that I could speak about this often, but if I could do things behind the scenes to keep this from happening, I would be willing to work for the rest of my life so that another family doesn't have to feel like this.
If just one thing had happened differently on the morning of July 26th, anything to jog Juan Rodriguez's memory, his babies, Luna and Phoenix, might still be alive.
Police sources say, considering the father's mental state when officers first arrived, investigators believe this was an accident.
Oh, Juan. Yeah, I made the same mistake you did. Oh, my gosh. How could this happen?
I could not believe it. I could not believe it, my twins.
Whatever you need, I will be there for you. And I want you to know you are not alone.
Mr. Rodriguez, a veteran who served this country and who, after that service, helped homeless veterans and has done so much in his life for the cause of what's right. I had the privilege of speaking to the Speaker of the New York State Assembly about legislation to ensure that car manufacturers outlet cars with mechanisms so as to alert parents so that this doesn't happen again.
Aiming to prevent these tragedies, Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal introduced legislation requiring car makers to install sensor technology alerting drivers to a baby left in a car seat.
All cars ought to include sensors that can very simply save lives.
This is across entire culture, socioeconomic status. This has happened to professors, teachers, doctors, lawyers. This is a human phenomenon.
Justin Ross Harris. The lightning rod story heard across the entire country is making it hard to find an unbiased jury.
Jury pool was so tainted from the media exposure.
So sad that there's so many couples out there who have trouble conceiving. And then you see this couple, and I'm going to say both of them because I definitely think that the mother is complicit in this as well. You see them just absolutely not care about being a parent and killing their child and putting their child in such an agonizing death when so many people would kill to be a parent.
Well, let's revisit defendant's request for a change of venue. To say that the juror questionnaires show a pervasive knowledge and extreme opinions that are negative to the defendant is frankly an understatement. I believe one juror said rotten hell. I think another used the word pervert. One juror even opined that the defendant deserves the death penalty in this case. Media coverage has been pervasive, constant, but regardless, it would not be just to try the case in Cobb County.
They just were not able to get a jury here in Cobb County, so they had to move it to Brunswick. The Brunswick jury pool is this very conservative, Christian-based community that does judge people who have issues of infidelity. They were able to get a lot of that character assassination evidence into the trial because they argued that it was part of his motive. And so by being part of his motive, all this sexting and all this stuff that really was irrelevant became admissible. And the fact that that was televised and was portrayed on news networks all around the country and all around the world very much tainted this case.
Prosecutors in Georgia say a man planned to kill his toddler son, planned to do so because he was unhappy with his marriage and wanted out of the family. That group delivered opening statements today at Justin Harris murder trial.
In this case comes to you following the law of Georgia. Not just something made up, but the law of Georgia.
On that morning, June 18, 2014, he drove Cooper that Home Depot Treehouse parking lot, and his selfish, abandoned, and malignant heart left him there to die. Because of his own selfishness, his obsession, and his other life. It's a case about death, deception, and a double life. If he was living a double life, there appeared to be a constant in both lives. And that was that he loved his little boy. Ross forgot. He didn't choose to forget. He just forgot. If he didn't have absolute knowledge that Cooper was there, it can't be criminal negligence. He is absolutely responsible. Only him, nobody else. But responsible is not the same thing as criminal. It is not. Do you believe that Ross was a loving father?
Absolutely, yes, sir. I saw him struggle with sexual sin. At the same time, I saw him being a tremendous friend to me and a tremendous father.
And a tremendous husband, too, right?
At times, yes.
I saw a subject in a striped shirt who was pacing the parking lot.
What was he doing?
The best way I can describe it is if you've ever seen Anchorman and you have Will Ferrell shouting, I'm in a glass case of emotion. It's that monotoned yelling that just seems really forced.
Like, oh gosh, what have I done? What have I done? And then he's calm.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're being asked about that public service announcement video, right?
That's correct.
And you were asked, how many times did he view it?
That's correct.
And your response was what?
He viewed it twice.
Your testimony under oath was that he viewed it twice.
Once again, it was cleared up. We don't know. But when you asked, it was accessed twice. So we don't know if he viewed it twice.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, you were under oath.
I understand that.
And you swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And you testified he viewed it twice. That's not true, is it?
I don't know.
Well, why'd you testify to it if you don't know?
Because it was accessed twice.
Why did you testify that it was accessed twice?
I spoke at the probable cause hearing.
You knew soon after your son died, within a couple of weeks, you knew that he had been messaging at least 6 other women on the day of Cooper's death, correct? And sexting with them and things like that. You did know
Are
that,
you
correct?
referring to what came out in the probable cause hearing?
Anytime around then, yes. So you found out post probable cause hearing, you knew that, correct?
There were things said in the probable cause hearing, yes.
Okay, so the
There were
answer
also
would be
things
yes.
said in the probable.
Judge,
Her
this
answer, I'm going to object because she's got the right to answer the question.
The problem is she's not answering the question.
I'm
Judge.
going. I'm sorry.
Everybody stop. Ask the question.
Okay, it's very simple. It's a yes or no.
Just ask the question.
After July 3rd, you learned that the defendant was carrying on the day of Cooper's death, at least 6 conversations sexually with other women. You learned that, correct?
That's a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay. Are you saying that you didn't learn until right before you filed for divorce that he was actually carrying on actual relationships with other women?
I don't remember exactly when I learned what had happened.
Right.
It took me a while to process it. Did I file for divorce immediately after finding out about it? No, I didn't. If that's what you're asking for, asking me.
And not just right after. It was, you didn't file for divorce. Right after, if you found out in July, you were still visiting him and seeing him and things like that, well up until this year, correct?
I didn't know what to believe.
Okay. The life he was living on the side was in stark contrast to what we've seen in videos and what you saw at home. Would you agree with that?
I mean, he wasn't a different person at home. I guess I'm not sure how to answer your question. I'm sorry. I just...
Okay.
He was... I mean, the way that he acted with me at home was not any different than the way that he acted other places.
How about when he would go see prostitutes?
I didn't know about that.
And that's what I'm saying is when you've been told to some degree he was seeing prostitutes, he was messaging underage women and things like that, you know that now.
Right.
That what you've heard of and what you've learned now, that is completely opposite than the defendant that you knew. Would you agree with that?
The things that we were struggling with in our marriage were directly related to those things. We had problems related to our sexual relationship. Those things were affecting that. So I can't sit here and say that I was absolutely shocked to find out that he had gone outside of our marriage.
Have you watched any of the testimony from regarding what he was sending to other people, the messages, these whisper messages and things like that?
A small portion of it.
Okay. Does that sound like the same person you were married to?
Sounds like somebody that's very lost.
Well, my question is, does that sound like the same person you were married to?
She's answered the question.
She did not answer.
Let's ask an answer.
Overruled.
You can answer it, ma'am, if you would, please. Does that sound like a different person than the person you were married to and you knew at home?
Sounds like a different part. It was not a part that he shared with me, obviously.
Okay.
I did not know these things. I didn't know these things that he was doing. So it's obviously a part of himself that he was not sharing with me. The days on the stand were my second and third worst days of my life. The first worst day being the day that I lost my son. To sit there on a stand when you're a woman and there's a powerful man in front of you trying to bend you to his will, it's very uncomfortable.
Leanna Harris stayed with this man for years. You saw how she is. She finds out her son's dead, and the first thing she asks about is her husband. She kind of got treated like a doormat for years. Leanna Harris was never going to accept that her husband was capable of this.
They were parading woman after woman after woman.
You sent you a little picture, Cooper, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you responded, so adorable. I love his eyes. And he responded, he's the best.
Now, all of those women, they all believed that Ross loved his son. and that he wouldn't have done anything to hurt him on purpose.
Ross's sex life, no matter how nasty and wrong, it doesn't have a thing in the world to do with the fact that he forgot that little boy. Nothing. Isn't some kind of motive to murder the person he loved more than anyone in the world.
It's not in this case that the defendant hated his son. It's just that he loved himself and his other obsession more than that little boy.
We have been criticized by people on the internet because we didn't attend the trial and they perceived that to be we didn't support Ross. And the reason we didn't go to the trial was because it was 700 or 800 miles from our house, and we could not afford to stay a month in a hotel, and we couldn't afford to go back and forth. Plus, our attorneys requested that we not go to the trial because he was concerned that any emotion that was shown in the trial might affect the jury.
When the jury was allowed to go out and view the car, I was shocked.
We have got a mountain of evidence in this case about what the conditions were exactly on that day. But now, with this demonstration, they can substitute what they saw from their height, from their vantage point, from their leaning in, from their looking.
So they're out there looking at it as the Monday morning quarterback, thinking that he should have looked for his child. And that's because that's on their mind. That is such prejudicial evidence.
He is absolutely denied a fair trial after that little recreation that occurred outside. There is no other option but a mistrial this way.
Judge, I think the defense is trying to engineer error by Nana boo-boo, we don't want to participate in giving any suggestions, but now that it's happened, we're going to ask for a mistrial.
There was not a recreation. It was a very structured and limited opportunity for the jurors to inspect an item of evidence, and therefore I deny the defendant's motion for mistrial. All right. See what time it is.
Tell these folks to the jury what kind of dad Ross was.
He was a very involved dad. It was 50-50. Everything was split down the middle. He wanted to be with him, enjoying every second he could with him. He sent it to me, I think it was the week before everything happened. He went to see Cooper at lunchtime, and it was around the time that they would be put down for a nap. They would eat lunch, and they would have their naps. And I think that the text said something along the lines of, Mommy, Daddy helped me go to sleep, helped me get to sleep. And I just noticed in this picture, you can see a little girl spot. I'm sorry.
Ross loved this little boy.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Very much.
You do it. Go.
I heard the desperate cries of a father who had just lost his son.
Well, you're characterizing things. Just tell us specifically what words you heard.
He was saying, oh my God, my son is dead. Oh my God, my son is dead. It was definitely genuine and very passionate and organic. I felt his pain. I even wept and mourned his son. I've never met him.
There's a Latin phrase that hangs over the Supreme Court. Let justice be done, though the skies may fall. Justice in this case is a verdict of guilty.
Was this investigation and prosecution a search for the truth? Was it? Or was it a search only for what was going to fit the state's theory that Ross intended to kill Cooper? Malice. When the detectives in this case take a stand and they swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, is it? I think that's a real fair question. The Cobb police made a decision right there on the scene. It was never, ever a consideration that this was an accident. If it's an accident, it's not a crime. An accident is an event that takes place without one's foresight or expectation. If you find from the evidence in this case that the incident occurred as a result of misfortune or accident, it is your duty under the law to write 2 words, not guilty.
Not only do I think that the prosecution's case is weak, I think he actually may be innocent of the murder charge. Remember this claim about the child-free site that he was on? Turns out someone sent him a link. What did he write back? Grossness. Remember the claim that he was trying to get a vacation without his child? Well, it turns out the night before his child died, he reached out to a travel agent about a vacation with his child. You also have even some of these women with whom he was having an affair saying he said he would leave his wife except for the fact that he loved his child. He didn't want to leave his child. Now you've got his ex-wife's testimony, which is so powerful in his defense, and I'm starting to think this really, really could have been a horrible accident.
The court pronounces the following sentence in the case of the state of Georgia versus Justin Ross Harris as to malice murder, with the jury having found the defendant guilty. Sentence of the court is life to serve in confinement without parole. I went back and reviewed and thought about your statement to the police and your statement to your wife when you were taken into custody. And it stood out to me that in both of those, you took the occasion to express your wish that you would be an advocate so that people would never do this again to their children. And I would say, perhaps not in the way that you intended, but you in fact have accomplished that goal. You can take the defendant into custody.
We've got the greatest system of criminal jurisprudence in the world. But sometimes there are breakdowns. I'll tell you that from the moment we met Ross Harris, we've never once wavered in our absolute belief that he's not guilty of what he's just been convicted of. Each time I'd take a new person over to the jail, a new lawyer, an investigator. And we walk out of the jail and inevitably turn their head to me and say, my God, he's really not guilty. Because he's not. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I don't think you could have any other sentence that would be appropriate when somebody's been convicted of intentionally taking the life of a 22-month-old child. Not only doing that, but doing it in such a painful, deliberate way.
You know, we hope and pray in this office that every parent will make sure that he or she is very careful about the circumstances of a child in a car. We know, and I learned in the pendency of this case that on occasion, accidents happen. They do. But this wasn't an accident.
But I'm taller. How can we, as caring, loving human beings, know that this is going to happen, know that alarm systems can help prevent this, and ignore this? How does the auto industry get away with that? We go with parents into Washington, D.C., and set up meetings with senators and congressmen. These families arrive on their own nickel with pictures of their children and walk the halls of Congress to educate the lawmakers if they will help move this forward.
This is about saving kids' lives, period. And there is no reason why the United States government, our Department of Transportation, can't require all new passenger motor vehicles to be equipped with a child safety alert system.
This is not about negligence. These are not bad parents. These are not parents who don't care about their children. What's very clear to me is this is about the frailty, the flaws of the brain.
Today, technology saves your car battery. Maybe tomorrow, it could save your child's life.
You know, 8 hours is a long time to ride in a car, especially if you're diabetic. You're supposed to stop every 2 hours and walk around, and we can't do that or we'd never get here. Cooper, Ross, and Leanna. It was like losing a whole part of yourself. Knowing that it would be a long time before I got any of it back, if at all. Do I think he was morally right with the women? No. I think he was immoral. But he was found guilty because he cheated on his wife, not because he killed his son. He has my heart, and I know him. He's my baby. And I know that he could not have done that. There's no way he doesn't have it in him.
Cooper was very lost in the trial. They don't even seem to care that he's gone. It hurts for people to think that he wasn't loved and that he wasn't cherished and that he wasn't taken care of. Justice for Cooper is based on what side of the case you fall on. To say that Cooper's father deserves to be known as the man who intentionally planned out the murder of him, none of his family want to see that. Their primary goal was to prove that Ross was a good parent and that he loved Cooper. And the sad thing is that they did that, and a jury of 12 people still got together and convicted him of not just unintentionally harming his child, which is bad, they convicted him of premeditated murder, and they convicted him of that without any evidence that he actually did plan it out. And that should scare every person listening, because just as it was Ross, it could be you. And have parents stopped forgetting their children in the backseat of cars because Justin Ross Harris is in the Valdosta State Prison right now, serving life without parole? Have children stopped dying? No.